All right, Pat, thanks so much for being with me here today. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about your experience with Mickey and why you found her to be so helpful.
Mickey is so, I guess, cordial, warm-hearted, uh, welcoming. She makes me just feel, I just want to hang out with her. She just feels so good to be around. So she just puts me at ease. I guess maybe that's the thing that right away, I just feel so comfortable with her. Like she's very down to earth, and she often answers questions by talking about her own experience with whatever it is I've brought up. And she'll sometimes go and get something to show me how to use the brush or whatever it is that we're talking about. She'll go get her own version of it and show me how. So it feels like I'm sitting in her kitchen with her, getting real concrete, down to earth guidance. And so that's been really, really helpful.
Nice. And so, what do you think are her strengths in terms of the guidance that she gave you?
Um, she is very, uh, let's see, she's very clear about what she says. So I, she sends me a little um, summary afterwards, so that if I wasn't, just to make it, then I can always check to make sure that I understood what she said. So I get a little confirmation in this email afterwards, which I appreciate. She is very, um, really asks good questions of me about how I'm doing things, or that I'm at, if I'm asking questions about something, she probes a bit so she can fully understand it. So I get she's really, really trying to understand what it is that I'm dealing with in detail, much like you do. And so I get the sense that she fully gets what my issue is, or how I'm operating with things. And then when she makes suggestions, they are, super relevant to me personally. So that I can feel really confident that what she says to me is customized for me, if you will.
Nice. And how is her knowledge around nutrition?
Uh, I probably haven't talked to her about nutrition as much,
Okay.
but whenever I have talked to her about nutrition, she it, I mean, I just sort of, it's just kind of a given with me. I just know she knows what she's talking about. So I trust what she says, but it's not something we've spoken about a great deal.
Great. And then how is her knowledge around the program, around the Fix Your Fatigue program, and her ability to kind of guide you through the different steps and to check in where you are and to lead you to the next step so you know what to do?
She's been great at looking through test results with me when I've asked her to do that. She gives me a good understanding of how the tests work and what it is they're saying. Uh, Again, I feel really confident that what she's telling me is reliable, because she explains it in quite a bit of detail, and um, helps me see the connection between different things, so that I understand why I'm being asked to do some part of the program. So she's, really got a good grasp of how the program works. And again, she'll often comment, when I had to do that, I had this experience. So I get this personal sense that, oh,
Hmm.
yeah, or I stumbled over this too, and here's what I ended up doing about it. So it feels like not only does she have the professional knowledge, but she kind of puts that personal stamp on it that I find valuable.
Yeah, it's nice to know that the person who's guiding you has actually been through what you've been through. You know, they have that empathy. They understand what it's like to have low energy or whatever it was that they were struggling with.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Mhm. So then how do you, you've gone through our group program, you haven't had any one-on-ones with me. How have you found the support from me through the group calls and the Facebook group? And be honest, like, tell me like it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm always extremely pleased by how quickly you respond. And uh, again, you get at the details of things. You ask a lot of questions so that uh, and the questions often help me because the first time I tell you something, I probably haven't filled you in on quite everything that's going on.
Hmm.
And I've kind of learned over time that you've got a pretty good memory besides, so you tend to remember things that I've said, even though I'm surprised because you deal with so many different people. But nonetheless, I don't expect you to remember everything, so I do often make a point of kind of repeating something to so that you have the reference for what it is I'm talking about. But I mean, you're so very positive in how you present everything. Um, so that's invaluable. I haven't, really hit any place where I could say, oh gosh, he sure didn't know what he was talking about there.
Hmm.
But my confidence is built over time working with you. That, and right now I'm feeling kind of challenged because I feel like I'm kind of stuck and not making much progress, and so it's a little harder right now. But because I've had a good track record with you, I tend to say, okay, I'll keep plugging along here, and even if it means stopping something, trying something different. Um, so I've come to trust you, uh, and I have to also kind of remind myself that I have to trust myself too.
Hmm.
So trying to balance trusting my own experience and you often, I mean, I also appreciate that you often ask what what my experience is or what I might be thinking about, so you get some insight into where I'm, how I'm thinking about what's happening, and you're very good at confirming. Even if you disagree with me, you're very good at hearing what I have to say, or valid, not making me wrong, if you will. So I appreciate that a lot.
Excellent. Well, that's my goal. The individual knows their body so much better. And so I just need to listen well enough, to hear what the individual is saying so that I can make sense of it and then provide some guidance. So thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, yeah,
And so let's talk a little bit about your progress and the kind of the bumps that you've hit. So tell me a little bit about, I know that there was, I think, significant improvement in the first 3, 4 months, and then
yeah,
we kind of hit a little bit of a hiccup.
yeah. And that is kind of right. So it was kind of when I had started taking the AAP, things got considerably better rather rapidly, and so I kind of speeded up, as you may recall, on taking the, and then I had a big drop back, and so um, I stopped the AP. I got a little bit better, but so I'm better, but I'm not doing great, and it sort of stayed in that mm, no kind of going nowhere place for quite a while here now,
Right.
so that's what's, and we've talked about that in the email exchanges over the last couple of days.
Right. Yeah. So, and what was your energy like initially when you came into the program? And then what was it like at 4 months when you were doing well? And then what is it like now?
Um, do you want me to describe how I was functioning or give a
Like,
number?
yeah, give it a number like out of 10 if 10 is ideal energy.
Or okay, um, I was I was probably at a 4 or 5 when I came on, maybe, yeah, probably.
Hmm.
Um, and now I've probably moved up to I'd say maybe a 7. And then when I, for that while I was feeling really good, I was, probably at an 8 or better. But Now I'm kind of 7-ish, I would say.
Gotcha. Yeah, so still good improvement, but we hit this bump in the road.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think this is really important to shed some light on too, because bumps kind of inevitably happen, especially when we go after infections. And so the AP, for those of who are listening and watching and don't know, AP is for parasites. And so we started going after the parasites. You felt good for a little bit, but then it was too much too fast, and now the body is recovering. And so we kind of have to get back to that point. And so I think the important point here is that you feel like you're not alone. You know that you're going to get there, hopefully, because we're going to figure out how to move you through this. You've had that, improvement from 4 to 7, so you have that trust in me and in the program.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, because I tell people, sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but if you're still taking more steps forward than you are taking back, you end up getting there.
Well, that's what I'm hopeful for. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And it's a little harder when there's a longer period of like, oh, nothing, nothing seems to be, improving here. So it's more challenging. And I think that's where, again,
Mhm.
circling back, Mickey is so helpful too, because she's got such a bright, encouraging spirit. And so when I talk to her, I always feel like, okay, I can keep going. And I feel that from you too, but I don't talk to you as much, or I talk to
Right.
her, obviously.
Excellent. And you're seeing her every month? Is that
Right.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Great. And so what else, what would you like to see in the program that would be more supportive? What would make this an even better program?
Um, well, I could be facetious and say I want to guarantee, but no.
Uh,
um, yeah, good question. Um, and I don't have a good answer for that right now. I
no
don't have,
worries.
I mean, I'm sure there may be some things if I gave it some more thought, but right now nothing is popping up right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I would, I would, if I don't want to share you with the world. I want you to myself, but that's not, that's not realistic either. So, um,
well, I appreciate that. Would you take the course again?
uh, sure. I mean, I would, yeah, definitely,
Hmm.
definitely, yeah, yeah. It's been a really, I mean, I've really made a lot of radical changes in my life, and I made them rather surprisingly. I don't want to say, yeah, many of them I made way more easily than I expected, and it was partly because of the guidance you gave was so clear, and a lot of supports in place so that I could make those changes, feel confident about them, and do them, with all along the way. I was able to ask specific questions like, well, wait a minute, what if I do it that way? Then what? And
Hmm.
you always, you don't dismiss those questions, or I mean, I think that's been so invaluable, is that that you have been available for those little questions that come along that can make a difference. If I'm doing 10 drops or am I doing 20 drops, it could be a big difference. And if I don't know, then I'm both not feeling confident and maybe doing some damage.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, thank you. And so who is this a good program for? And conversely, who is this not a good program for? Um, and I can help you out with this question. I'm kind of putting you on the spot with some of these.
Yeah.
Um, do you have
Well,
some thoughts?
yeah, I think I've thought about myself, who, if I were going to recommend it to people, who would I recommend it to? I, I think it's going to be a more effective program for people who are a little bit, are somewhat, I want to say somewhat self-directed, and are able to follow, they have a pretty good outlook on life, and are able to, follow through. It's people who follow through. People who don't follow through readily, they're going to find lots of reasons not to want to do this.
Hmm.
Do the various steps, because steps can be quite hard and confusing, and they might, if they're not persistent about getting the information from you and staying in touch, they're going to lose ground in a hurry. So I think I think it would be quite challenging for somebody who's kind of a freewheeling sort to do this. I think it's got to be people with at least some degree of persistence and reliability to do it. I could be wrong. I mean, it could be that, I mean, there's so many supports in place that it could well work for some people who aren't that way.
No, I absolutely agree with you. I think that, and I think having built-in accountability is really important.
Yeah, yeah,
If you're seeing Mickey every month,
yeah.
and you know that she's going to ask you, where are you at in the program? What
Mhm,
have you completed? What are you taking? What have you not?
mhm,
Then that's a big difference than going it on your own without that kind of support.
mhm. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that makes sense. I think sort of circling back to your earlier question, I don't know that I have a good answer to this, but even though you explain everything so thoroughly and the book is very complex and complete, I still haven't been able to, in my mind, digest how everything works. I mean, it's more than I can in my foggy, and I don't have so much of a foggy brain anymore, but even with my clearer brain, I can't really take it all in. It's like, it's like, well, yeah, that has to do with mitochondria and infection. Oh, I know you've told me that 35 times and it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to remember it. So I don't know what would help that. You are really good, and so is she at reiterating things in many different ways. And maybe I don't have to know. I mean, you guys are the ones that know this stuff, so maybe it's not all that important that I know all these things as long as I follow the directions, which is pretty much what I do. It's like I don't know why I'm doing this, but he said to do it, I'll do it. Yeah, so. Maybe I do that to a fault. I don't know.
No, I think that's a huge point. I mean, I've seen that people who are most successful are those who are most coachable, which
Right.
is, it's not blind trust, but it is trusting someone enough to do what they say, and you don't always have to know why. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, like you said, like you're not a physician, and sometimes we can explain this stuff till the cows come home, and it's not something that, I mean, you've got your own life with the things that you focus on. Like, this is what I'm doing all day long. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't understand it if I wasn't doing it all day long.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
no, that's a very good point. And I think that sometimes people who also aren't successful are constantly asking why, and they are not implementing.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's great. Like I said, I'm happy to answer why, but at the end of the day, it's what do you implement? And if
Mhm.
you're not implementing anything, there's no way that you're going to be able to have success. But the
Mhm.
human brain is constantly looking for um, it depends on the kind of questions that you're asking, like what's wrong with this, or, what am I missing in this protocol, or what's not working is a
Mhm.
lot different than, how do I implement this to the best of my ability?
Mhm. Mhm. That's really good, and that's as you say that, that's really, I think this is really an important piece of what you're doing, is uh, helping people make that actually make that choice to move forward and do these things, maybe without needing to understand. I mean, it's good to understand. Sometimes that's really helpful, and sometimes understanding might actually make me notice things I wouldn't otherwise notice. Because sometimes you ask me things and I'm thinking, gee, I should have noticed that. And I didn't, wasn't until you asked me. And maybe if I had understood better, or, recalled what you had told me about the thing, I would do better. So I don't know, I guess, everybody's mind is different in what they can take in. And, obviously with this fatigue, people's brains get so foggy. I mean,
Right.
mine is way, 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 way better than it was. I mean, that part is only a minor factor now for me. It's the sleepiness that's still the problem for me, but
Hmm.
and that's still, that nighttime sleep is still I got a Fitbit, by the way, but I can't figure out how to make it work, and so far I haven't been able to use it. But
Gotcha. We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, well, I mean, you make a very good point, and I think it is that balance of understanding why, so you know why you're doing something and why you're taking something, which is why I have things kind of categorized under, okay, this is adrenal support, and these are all the symptoms that you have of of adrenal dysfunction, and then you're taking the supplement that's going to fix those symptoms. So you understand the why, but you
Mhm.
may not understand kind of how heavy metals, chemicals, molds, and infections actually cause adrenal gland dysfunction. You may know it does, but you may not know exactly how it does.
Mhm.
And so I think that there's something around having enough knowledge to be willing to move forward, then having that coachability
Yeah.
to do what you need to do to implement, and not get caught up in what's called analysis paralysis, where you're kind of analyzing everything but not taking steps forward.
I do. I have thought about and curious about, uh, because you are so extremely knowledgeable in this arena and you have such a good memory, it's hard for me to fathom that other practitioners are going to be able to pick up and do what you do. And maybe you'll find a way to train people that can do what you do. But you do have a remarkable mind and ability to hold on to and explain information that's quite exceptional. And so, I mean, I have thought a number of times, well, how the heck is anybody else going to be able to pick up and do this? Right now, that's not my personal concern, but I have thought about it, just realizing you are wanting to build other people to do it as well.
Well, thank you for that. That means a lot. But yes, that is my goal, is to, I mean, I can't help a million people by myself, right? So I need to
Right,
train these practitioners and have
right,
them out there
yeah.
practicing this as well. And I think that I know a lot of really smart practitioners, and I would imagine that they would be able to learn this because it is systematic.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just those questions that kind of pop up on how do I address something. And part of any sort of practitioner training that I do is going to include access to me, for questions that come up, and I can kind of support them with it. And then they see things enough, and then they're able to answer those questions. But that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you have the skills you have. That's one of the things that has obviously made me connect with you and trust you, is because you have all this information right here. It's pretty remarkable. So, and you're willing to look for things you don't have.
Right. Yeah. I think that's, yeah, important to be humble enough to know what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I found too, is that, if somebody's a specialist in their field, they're going to know a lot more about that field. And, so the same is the case with fatigue. And there's a lot of docs who see fatigue patients, but they don't focus on fatigue.
Right. Right.
And so consequently, most of the time they're missing things.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I want to make sure we're not missing anything.
I got that.
Um,
Yeah. Really appreciate that, and I'm happy to be of support. I mean, I just feel like you're a wonderful teacher and mentor, and I really honor what you do, and I'm happy to support that in any way I can.
Thank you. So I have one last question for you.
Sure.
And so if there's somebody who's on the fence about going into the program, what
Mhm.
would you tell them?
Um,
And it could come back to that whole coachability conversation too, like you're going to be successful if, um, is it worth the money? Is it worth the time? Maybe some of those are probably some questions that people have.
mhm, mhm. Um, well, I guess there's so many things I could say. I'm trying to find a good way to say it. Um, I guess I'm just trying to imagine somebody talking to me and saying, "I'm not sure if I should do this program or not," and what I might say to them.
Hmm.
Uh, I can say that I've looked far and wide to find somebody who understood the complexity of dealing with fatigue and um, understands all the dimensions of it. And I've not run across anybody else who does it with this depth and breadth. And the amount of support you get is it's so so thorough and so personalized that you can always feel confident every step of the way that you're going to be making progress and that you're going to be respected and cared for along the way. Those are,
Wonderful.
I guess, some things I would say.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I'm pleased that you've had such a good experience so far, and I look forward to seeing you resolve your fatigue completely.
I'm ready. I was, it's kind of what, I went on this shorter program with you thinking, well, I'm really making such good progress. I'm like, going to be flying pretty soon. And so it's a little, as I say, a little disheartening to not quite be where I'd like to be with it. But
Right. Well, I think you'd probably still agree that if we get it all done in a year, it was a year well spent.
yes, indeed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Pat.